Hello and welcome to Dateline New Haven on WNHH Radio. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make New Haven tick. Mayor Toni Harp always makes New Haven tick, morning and night. She's here in the WNHH studio for her weekly Mayor Monday checkup on what she and we are up into in the Elm City. Welcome, Mayor Harp. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks. It's great to be here, Paul. Happy Monday.
Yeah, happy Monday to you, too. I heard the rain's only going to be here briefly, and then we're going to start warming up.
Oh, that's great.
And if you have a question for the mayor, please feel free to pop it to us via Facebook Live. You go to the New Haven Independent Facebook page. You'll see the video right there. Thanks to Gateway Community College and Bertram Moses PC for providing financial support for today's program. Mayor Harp, you are back again from traveling. You are a traveling person, but you don't look any worse for the wear.
Well, you're kind.
This time, you see, if I were to go to like Massachusetts for a couple of days, I spent a couple of days kind of relaxing. But you went to China. Now you just got back from D.C.
Yeah.
Washington, D.C. What were you up to there?
Well, you know, for this past year, I was president of the African American Mayors Association.
Mm-hmm.
And we had our annual conference, and it was time for me to pass the gavel.
Oh, so you were... That year went fast.
It went pretty fast.
So you're no longer Madam President.
Nope.
But you could in D.C. Did you say Donald? Where's Donald? Are you one of those anti-sanctuary presidents? Donald, where are you? Was he showing his face to you guys?
No, he wasn't showing his face. Although we did have his a couple of people from his administration.
Oh, that's interesting. So they did send somebody to the African American Mayors Association.
Yeah, they did.
What kind of people?
You know, I'm trying to remember. I think the guy is from the Surgeon General. Yeah, U.S. Surgeon General.
Oh.
He came and he talked about the opioid crisis and other public health issues.
And so they didn't have Ben Carson talking about tripling the rent to people in public housing.
No, he
might not have gotten a big reception. So Mayor Harp, you went down there chairing your last meeting, I guess, as president. Who's the new president?
Mayor Oliver Gilbert of Miami Gardens, Florida.
Okay. Is Miami Gardens like right outside Miami?
I believe it is, yeah.
Because there was this amazing, I don't know if you remember, Lawrence, this amazing This American Life about this one town where they had to get enough tickets per cop to show they're getting tickets, and they were just hounding this guy who worked in a store every time he came out and arrested him. And
oh my goodness,
great expose. But that was a while back.
Well, I'm sure it wasn't Miami.
No, I'm sure it wasn't that guy. Yeah. No, I'm talking 8 years ago. Yeah. But anyway, so you passed the gavel. How did it feel? So what was the year like as president of the African American?
Well, you know, it was very interesting. We, as you know, had a leadership summit here in New Haven.
Mm-hmm.
And a number of people came from around the country to that. And we were able to, you know, really begin to delve into issues, education, policing, violence, that sort of thing here. And we were able as well, I think, because of the work that we did here, it set a tone for the national conference. It was really full of a lot of content. And, you know, it was very, I think that the mayors went home with a lot to think about.
So one thing I found striking, first of all, you were the first female, weren't you?
I was, yes,
the first president of this organization.
I was.
And it was interesting to me that under your presidency, the organization took a stand on undocumented immigrants. Because
Yes.
I remember, I don't know if you said I might be a little off on this one. I had thought that in the urban context, at least, African-American organizations, political organizations, were not taking a lead on issues like undocumented immigrants, that there were tensions sometimes in some cities. It used to be here as well, not as much now, about whether people were had their jobs taken by immigrants. But you guys took a strong stand in favor of sanctuary cities.
No, we did. We thought that it was really important to do. And many of our cities, even though there are maybe some in the African-American community that don't have strong feelings about this one way or another, but I think in a lot of our cities, we're not just mayors of African Americans, we're mayors of all people. So, and that's the case in all of our cities. And so I think that there was an interest to show that we understand, as African American mayors, the difficulties that newcomers have to this country, particularly when you have a chief of our nation, our president, having such unusual and outlandish views around immigration.
Mhm.
You know, honestly, most people in America were not the indigenous peoples of America.
Right.
So we're either what we would consider the affirmative immigrants, which are people who came of their own free will, or the not so affirmative ones like my ancestors who came here against their will. But you know, we're all here and we're all trying to make it work.
And so I think you had told me, if I remember correctly, there wasn't much pushback. This wasn't some hotly debated topic at the African American American
Not at
Association.
all, because you know the other thing that people forget and about African Americans or people of African descent is that we're not monolithic.
Yeah.
You know, even in our community, we have people that are immigrants who have the same African heritage that we might have, but they're from Jamaica, they're from the Africa. Some of them are actually from Africa. Some of them are from Costa Rica. They're from Panama. They're from all over. Frankly, the Eastern Seaboard, whether it be in North, Central, or South America. As a matter of fact, most of the slavery that came to the West from Africa went to Central and South America, and it stopped off at the Caribbean before it went anywhere. So that you're going to see more and more of that, and so as a result, we're not a monolithic black population.
Right.
Now, where I grew up, we probably were, but you
were a very small black population in Utah, right?
There were like 5 of us, and everybody was from Texas.
See, if you had 5 you in a Jewish population, it'd be 6 opinions. But that's, so Mayor Harp, it would be okay if we got back this in a minute and took a call from Bob.
Oh, of course. I love hearing from Bob every day. It's the only time I hear from him on Mondays.
I know. What is that? I don't know. Bob has his Mayor Harp question on Mondays.
At your office.
Hey, Bob.
We could talk about 100,000 different things if you'd like to. But I have 2 questions for you. And to me, they're very important. Maybe one of them isn't right now, but I think the other one is. So we'll do the less important one. Have you decided on who you're going to support for governor yet?
I haven't made a formal decision, and I'll be doing that soon.
Ooh, that means you made a decision.
How soon,
Wait,
Mayor?
yeah. She said
Paul.
not. Oh, she's getting look. She says she hasn't made a formal decision.
Well, I haven't. It's between a couple of people.
I have a
still
guess.
thinking it through.
But I won't say it.
Okay, good.
Okay, so you haven't made a decision. You're still saying, if asked, you wouldn't be a lieutenant governor, too.
I'm
correct?
still saying that. Yes.
Okay. And my other question is...
Remember, you heard
what
it here
is-
first on Mayor Monday, months ago.
I did hear it first. But my second question is regarding Bill Cosby and Yale University. Do you think Yale University should revoke, since Bill Cosby was found guilty last week on 3 counts, his honorary degree?
Oh, I don't know anything about that. I don't know what their process is. I'm sure they'll be taking a look at it and making a decision.
Okay, because Temple revoked his honorary degree.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't he go to school there? Am I correct?
Yes, he
Am I
did. Yeah,
wrong?
he's a Temple guy.
Yeah, I didn't know he got an honorary degree there. I wasn't even aware that he got one at Yale.
All right, Bob. Hey, thanks a
Okay.
lot, buddy.
All right. Good to
Have a
talk
great
to you,
week.
Mayor.
We had such an interesting
Take care.
conversation about the Cosby case on Pundit Friday.
Oh, okay.
Because, I was wondering, because, most of the panelists that are African American, I was thinking sometimes I was going to say, well, they're focused on the African American guy. And it was just the opposite. At least the women on the show, Babs Ivy, Markeisha Ricks, they were very focused on another rapper who's had so many, has had so many sexual assault and sexual harassment.
Oh, what's that guy from Chicago?
Yeah. I can't believe it. I'm getting a blank now. I feel embarrassed.
Me too.
But they were saying they actually were glad it happened to Cosby, and they feel that when they're black female victims, they get less attention.
Yeah.
So Cosby had white victims, but that when black women are the ones abused, that you don't hear about the case as much.
Yeah. I think that there is that. And, one of the things that I think, honestly, that women have been too accepting of abuse for too long. It's really time for it to stop.
it was so interesting to me when he had that when he blurted out in the courtroom after he had lost. So he finally, after all these years of a successful career, he had money and power, he was able to get away with stuff. He was found guilty, and the prosecutor said, "Don't let him go. He has a plane." And Cosby blurted out, "He doesn't have a plane, a blank blank hole." So he spoke to himself in the third person, and he blurted out in court this focus on whether he had a plane or not at this moment when he lost control. I thought it was kind of telling about how much of sexual harassment and abuse does have to do with control.
I think it has everything to do with control. I was actually speaking to Officer Trotman about this today, and we were pretty much in agreement. But he sees a lot more of this than I do, and he says it's all about control. And for those people who really need that for whatever reason, that it's often that sexual abuse of one's form or another. It could also go to even more violence beyond just rape. It could be to murder and all of the rest of that because of control. It really is a bit of a behavioral health problem.
These people who rip the phones off the wall so that
Yeah.
we can't make the call.
Yeah.
Well, that's cheery thoughts on Mayor Monday and WNHH 103.5 FM. Your home for community radio. Live streamed at newhavenindependent.org. We're doing Mayor Monday with Mayor Toni Harper. I actually dreamed last night that you were running for governor. And I got really upset because somebody
You
else...
woke up in a hot sweat and said, why did I have that nightmare?
No, there was somebody else running who actually is running in real life who has been to jail. And I was really mad because of something he did that was crooked. And then I woke up, I said, why was I mad at Toni Harp for something the other guy did? She didn't do it. Weird dreams. Okay, but back to reality. So, Toni Harp, you're back from Washington. It was your last meeting session as president of the African American Mayors Association. You've handed the gavel to Mayor Oliver Gilbert of Miami Gardens, Florida. Any other thoughts from spending the year? Did you get any sense of how other mayors in this country, African American mayors, are dealing with issues that are similar, different from yours, and where black politics is going in this country?
Well, I think that one of the things that, and I don't know whether or not you got a chance to see it, but at U.S. Conference of Mayors in January, many of the African American women mayors were there, and Essence Magazine did a spread. And I thought it was important because it's sort of to let the world know that there are more and more African American women who are in positions of authority. And I think that that is significant. I think it's significant for all women, but particularly African American women. And I think that, one of the themes, particularly at the program where we honored so many people, there is this theme that, yes, we are currently in a difficult time. Our leadership has sort of unearthed a lot of the racism and other kinds of negatives around race and around sexism. But it's important for those things to be unearthed so that we can address them, and that not to lose heart. I really, so many people said that. There was a woman that we honored named Yvette Clark. She's from Brooklyn, and she said it in such a beautiful way that now is not the time to lose heart. That what has happened is good, but we must continue down that road because the values that we have are values that will last, and they're for everyone.
So women are on the rise.
Not just for some. And women, yes, and you heard that I said she.
Mm-hmm.
She said that. And I think that for women to have faith in our country and to put forth and to move into leadership, or even to support others in leadership who have the same values, it bodes well for our country.
I was hearing
and
amazing,
our country's future.
You might know this woman. I didn't. I was hearing a great interview on NPR this weekend in Georgia with State Rep Stacey Abrams. She's looking to become the first black female governor in the history of our country. She's running for Georgia's nomination.
All right.
She's this powerhouse, apparently. She's written these great books, novels, nonfiction. She's a very serious candidate, and it's so interesting when I'm thinking about 2018, how this 2018 could go in such dramatically different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could have the first black female governor ever winning in Georgia.
Yeah.
Or you could have this retrenchment of Roy Moore-like candidates. You know, the only reason Roy Moore was because of his amazing,
And
despicable personal history.
And I don't want to say this, and I don't want people to get really mad.
Why not?
If I say this, but what you see in particularly African American women candidates and people who run for office are, and women, period, who are what we used to say qualified, who come with a lot of knowledge to the jobs, come with some moral standing. And then, but we are so used to electing men who don't have all those qualifications. And at some point, we've got to say to the men, look, if you can't be as qualified as we are and have the same sense of ethics, have the same experience so that you can move our areas forward wherever they are in the country, then, just stay at home. We're going to do it. Sorry.
All right. Now, why would someone be mad at that?
Well, because...
You're saying be qualified to run for office. Not this.
But, for whatever reason, we give men a pass.
Yeah. Well,
but we don't give women a pass.
They say they've done studies like in corporations and certain that men often, and I'm probably prone to this too as a male, you kind of feel like, well, I can do that, even if I don't have a background, and the women feel they have to study twice as hard. Like, I don't know if you noticed, like every time I interview Rosa DeLauro, she's done, even if it's like a small interview and she has no real opponent, she has like 8 pages of research and notes on the bills she's worked on and what she stands on them. And the guys that run against her, especially now, they don't really invest in serious candidates. There's some guy that was last year was like a truck driver. He has an NRA guy who has like 2 hours a week to campaign. They kind of feel like they really believe they could be a good congressman, And I think men, I think we do sometimes feel like, well, we're good. We could just do anything. We don't have to have certain qualifications. I think you're right. I mean, I agree with you from whatever.
And I think that women have got to really understand that, in fact, often we're far more qualified, and that you don't have to wait until every single T is crossed and every single I. That if you want to serve, if you have good ethics, if you have the background, you should try and at least give people an opportunity to have good leadership.
And we'll have a record number of women running for Congress this year. So.
Yes, that's a good thing.
So back to African American Association, where was this event?
It actually was right outside of Washington, D.C. and Virginia, in a place called Crystal City, which is right almost across the street from Washington Reagan Airport.
Okay. And what's the name of the place? You had it in a hotel? Or?
Yeah, it was the Doubletree.
Doubletree, okay. And so now New Haven made presentations there, right? It wasn't just you from New Haven at this thing.
Oh, yeah. We had Chief Campbell and Stacy Spell, because we're doing excellent work here with our community-based policing, our Project Longevity, and we also got one of our contractors, ShotSpotter, to be on a panel and to talk about how having focused deterrence through Project Longevity and a very intentional, widespread community policing program really is the thing that reduces crime, not just for a year, because you see year reductions, goes down, it goes up all across the country. Ours is consistent because we know what we're doing. I thought it was important for my colleagues at the African American Mayors Association to know that there are some tools that we have in the toolbox that work, and to look at what we're doing here in New Haven.
Are you glad you spent the year as president? It's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work, and I'm really glad that I did. The other thing that we talked about was youth stat, which again, like a very challenging population, those young people who are disengaged in school, who are DF students, who are disruptive sometimes, but to have intentional programs that work with these young people, to have a way for multiple organizations to work together and to utilize our locally grown software has made a huge difference in the expulsions, the number of suspensions, And the fact that young people are in school know that they have a caring adult that it matters to if they do well in school. I'm really proud of all of those things, and I think everybody in New Haven should be as well.
So we got to spread the word to mayors of other cities about what's
Yeah.
working here.
Yep.
What else? Now, I cut you off a little bit when you said you're happy you spent the year putting the work in to be the president.
Well, I'm happy that I spent the year. It gave me some opportunities to talk a little bit about what we're doing here in New Haven. Just over a week ago, I went to the National Black Public Administrators Conference, and I talked about some of what we're doing here and how we are sort of moving the dial a little bit here in many areas. And so I also got a chance to learn from other cities and was invited to things that I wouldn't have been.
What would be an example?
The Light the City conference that Baltimore, Maryland has, really great women mayor in Baltimore, Mayor Catherine Pugh, really, and they're sort of like a Bloomberg city, what works city, but just to learn more about lights and about electricity in this day and age and all of the different kinds of sensors that you can have on your lights to help manage the city was really important. And our point is, we're a really great city. During the DeStefano administration, we decided as a city to change all of our lights out to LEDs. And so now, unlike many cities who didn't do it yet, we were an early adapter to that kind of technology, and which is really good because it saved us money. But there are so many other things that we could do with those lights now that
You mean LEDs have add-ons or tweaks that make them more energy efficient or better timing? Or?
Well, it makes them also do other kinds of things. Like now you can say you have LEDs on a light, but there aren't a lot of people that come up that street. Now there are these sensors that can brighten it. It can lower it to a little bit lower than what you would need if you were walking down the street or a car was coming up the street. But as the car comes up, it brightens. As you walk, it brightens. And it's just, just little features that we don't have in our lights right now that we could perhaps use. And it was really great to be able to talk to the people who've invented those kinds of things and to see if there are opportunities for our city to see what it is we have and how we can take it to the next level.
All right. And we're taking next level on Mayor Monday. If you want to send in a question, the Facebook page is New Haven Independent. Tom has a question. Good morning, Paul, and good morning, Mayor Harp. Good morning.
Good morning.
What do you think is the right balance between landlord accountability, tenant rights, and city health department enforcement in a city that has tens of thousands of homes that were built before 1978 and have some traces of lead paint? We've had a bunch of stories about this recently. One of the independent commenters writes, I know a number of landlords, few of them are rich, none are evil. Lead paint in housing is a wickedly complicated problem, but lead exposure in early childhood can stunt a kid for life.
No, I think that lead is something that we've been struggling with. One of the things that we've got to remember is that we're a city that's 380 years old, so we're going to be struggling with it. But it's important that when we find it, that we do something about it and we do it quickly. And I think that some of the things that we've seen, it's just taken a long time to actually get it addressed by some landlords. And I think that we've got to find ways. And I know that we have resources to help out under certain circumstances. But we've got to raise the level of concern of all of our landlords that they've got to really look into this and they've got to address it. There are all kinds of ways that it can be addressed, some more expensive than others, but you can address it. And so we've got to take it seriously. And, look, we've had landlords that just don't take maintaining their property seriously, and yet they charge the highest rents. So we've got to find out a way to get this at the top of the mind of some of these landlords. If we can help give them, maybe low interest loans. I know there's some who qualify for grants from us, but there are ways to get this done. They've just got to do it, but they've got to take it seriously.
Because Christopher Peak and Tom Breen have done a bunch of stories in the Independent, and when I first saw the headline, 460 kids poisoned in lead in the last 2 years, I thought, wow, that's huge. Then I started reading more, and it is a lot, but we've changed what the poisoning level is.
Right.
So it was just a few years ago that you needed twice as much level of blood in your blood than you do now to be considered poison. And it's serious stuff, letting you know child development. But also with all our old houses, a lot of times, the landlords keep telling us it's more complicated, that they're unclear in some of these cases. We were over about one case last week where the city said you have to scrape all the lead to the wood. But in other cases, you can encapsulate it with this kind of plastic coating.
Right.
Do we know, is there kind of a clear sense what should be done?
Well, I think that, like all methods work, and I would leave it up to the professionals to decide what works in a specific building. There might be a reason why encapsulation doesn't work in that particular place.
Right.
But, I know that encapsulation is possible. I don't know how long it lasts. So there are all of these things, so that you might have done it 10 years ago and now it's wearing and got to do it again. I don't know any of that, but I do know that there are different remedies for different types of structures.
I remember my very, very short life as a landlord in the house I lived in Fairhaven in the 90s. There were some kids there, and they did have lead paint levels from where they lived before. So when he came and got inspected, so we had to do the whole thing. But I remember thinking, these kids did seem in pretty bad shape, and partly maybe because of the place they lived in before and had eaten lead
Yeah.
paint. Yeah.
And, the thing that is great, and I'm sure some landlords think is unfair about New Haven, is that the state's level is higher than ours. That is acceptable. And ours is lower here in New Haven. And so, and that was done by the local legislative body and working
When was
through
that?
our health department. I don't know, but I just know that ours is lower. But that just means that it's more important to the people of New Haven that this not be a problem for our young people.
Well, it does. They say brain development has a serious impact on
Oh,
kids.
sure. And, we need our brains.
Yeah.
As you grow older,
I
you
remember
lose it
when
anyway.
when I used to have brain. I remember it was very useful.
Wasn't it great? Remember that young brain? I
do.
remember it dearly.
The fertile, yeah, it was great. And talking about two wheels. This weekend we had Rock to Rock,
Oh, yes.
and someone who works here, he went 62 miles. So did Joe Ugly went 62 miles.
Oh, my goodness. That's impressive.
Yeah, but that's another thing I remember from youth. But anyway, but it wasn't just they. 1,300 people in New Haven came out for this event.
I was there.
Oh, you were? Did you have an electric bike this year, or what did you have?
Oh, yes. I have to have, I told someone my bike had superpowers. But let me show you something. In spite of the superpowers, I fell on my
Oh, no. You fell.
I have a boo-boo. I fell off the bike.
Where'd you fall?
There was this little kind of narrow place right by the new colleges where you had to kind of get off the road. And I wasn't sure that we were getting off the road. And then you kind of have to walk your bicycle around to get to the street. And I wasn't aware of that. And then when I realized that's what we were doing, I tried to get off the bike. And I lost my balance.
I'm sorry.
I'm embarrassed.
It's okay. I know. I get embarrassed when I fall too.
Yeah.
Especially out in the street where everyone can see it.
I know. Everybody said, "Oh, can we help you?"
Was this
I'm
by
like,
the canal trail?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's confusing there. Yeah. Did you have a good time otherwise?
Oh, it was the most beautiful day. It was a great day for a ride. The trees were in bloom. My God, it is such a beautiful city that we live in. And we went from, where Common Ground is, all the way down, even through New Hallville. It was just beautiful, beautiful. And we should not complain about our city. It is gorgeous. When it's at its best, I don't believe there's another more beautiful city in America.
And what gets me is that 1,300 people showed up.
Yep.
Now, there's been a massive ride for years. It's an event. I guess it's been 10 years. It raises money for environmental organizations.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the participation gets me. And I want to apologize to our readers. This year, we didn't have a reporter there. I struck out getting anyone on a weekend. Because I think it's such a big deal event that it says something about civic engagement. Because it's not just the people who can ride 62 miles, although they're amazing, and going up the hills. But, the people go on little rides, and they have family rides. And it just promotes such a healthy city. And I think bikes became almost a symbol of New Haven's rebirth, one aspect of it over the last 10, 15 years. We became a much more bikeable city, a lot more people biking around, all income groups and everything. And I think that many people participating in an event like that says something strong about our city.
I think so. And it was really great. People of all ages, little kids, kids, like grandparents, people my age and older. We were all out there for the family ride.
Now we got to watch out that they don't get hit by dirt bikes. They're back out.
Oh, I know. I saw them yesterday.
Were you there at Whaley and Fitch at 6 o'clock?
No, but I was there. They were coming down Dixwell Avenue right around 4 o'clock. Just massive numbers of them doing wheelies. And all kinds of
and they had a
things.
big
I'm like,
confrontation with the police at Whaley and Fitch around
they
6.
did?
I was getting calls, yeah.
Oh,
But sometimes I watch a kid doing the wheelie in the street. I'm thinking I can kind of relate to that. Not that they're supposed to be doing that, but the kind of freedom and the excitement
it's got
of
to
it.
feel wonderful.
But when they
it's not
do-
allowed.
But
Paul.
I know. I mean, they almost ran over an 8-year-old kid at one of the
Oh,
bus stops a
goodness.
year or two ago. I mean, like this
Yeah,
stuff's serious,
It is serious.
and a lot of it is.
And they could get hurt. We saw a guy, he wasn't with the crowd that was going down Dixwell Avenue. He was on Shelton. Somehow he must have gotten on the wrong street. And then he swung out and almost got hit by a car. I'm like, you got it. Anyhow,
Wow.
there are good points and bad points, but
Right.
like it's really not allowed in our city. And it's very dangerous for our police because they can't really go after these guys.
Right. We have this thing we don't want them chasing because we think that makes it more unsafe sometimes.
You could really hurt them.
And hurt the
somebody
cops.
could get killed too. Yeah.
And we've written stories in the past where they kind of used smart policing, where they did kind of catch up with the people in different ways. Like they kind of did some intelligence and found out where the stuff was being stored.
Right.
But one time they kind of followed around. The guy like fell off his bike or ran out of gas or something, made the arrest. They actually do more here than in other cities because we've wrestled with it. We have a whole
Right.
task force on it. Aaron Good has a question. I love his questions because it's always something I
He's
know
so
nothing
smart.
about.
Thank
He is
you,
really
Aaron.
smart, that guy.
I hope you
Aaron-
don't stump me.
Well, he always stumps me, and then I always feel like a second-rate reporter, just to be honest here. Okay, is Mayor Harp satisfied with the percentage of board and commission members who have returned the conflict of interest disclosure forms that were set out by her office and supposed to be returned by April 6th? What actions might be taken with respect to those members who have failed to file the disclosure form, and will she consider directing her corp counsel to resume the ethics trainings for board and commission members that used to be conducted under Mayor DeStefano? Well, I have a feeling there weren't a lot returned based on that question.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll check with our corp counsel to see how many were returned. And yes, one of the things that and I learned this at the African American Mayors Association as well, like we really need to update our sexual harassment policy in the city. But as well, ethics training, it's really important. And if there's anyone who is interested and is not a Democrat in sitting on our ethics panel, I would love to get your resume.
All right. And Aaron Good, thanks for that great question, as always, here on Mayor Monday. Big week for Tweed. We're coming down the wire. So this is the year that the airport runway might be extended 100 feet. And they're saying that if it's paved another 100 feet, not extended, paved.
Paved. It's already,
it's already
it's
there.
1,000, yeah.
So there's a feeling that we've talked about this on the show, and you went up to Hartford to talk about it, that if we get that paving done, we can maybe get flights from Florida to D.C. to Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And as usual, it's very controversial with some of the people in the neighborhood, although some of the people in the neighborhood favor it. The people who don't are pretty vocal.
Yep.
And so now we tried, because the legislature needs to pass a bill that has a proposal in it that would change it. They need to do that for that to happen. There's only a few weeks left in the session.
That's right. So we're really coming down to the wire. We had a meeting today with some of our delegation to let them know how critically important we believe this is to the growth of the region and, frankly, the state. And
what did you hear back?
by and large, the ones that were there were very supportive in what they're going to do, because we are towards the end of the session, and the House is going in today, the Senate's going to be in tomorrow, and so they're going to call a delegation meeting to have the conversation. Look, there's no reason for us to do something or have something in general statutes that could lead to the closure of the commercial side of our airport. We will still have general aviation. Every single house that was built out there was built after the airport was there. Every single one. We were a first adopter of airports, as it turns out. And there was a farm out there. They gave the farm to the airport, and there was nothing else out there. So, and the thing that is really great, if you are in the 65 decibel range, which is really not good, that we have the resources to retrofit your house up to $40,000. So people are getting central air, they're getting new windows, they're getting new doors, and you can't hear a thing. And so we're also doing other community benefits. We're going to have a public hearing, and we will. I think I sent out an Everbridge message to folks to let them know when that will be. I think one is on Saturday, and that's at Nathan Hell. The other one is at Betsy Ross. We'll get you the information, but so that Paul can put it up on his website. Will you, Paul?
We
and
definitely
we'll put it on ours.
Definitely will. So last week there was a hearing at the Board of Alders, because I could be wrong about this, but it seems to matter for the prospects of the bill if they get an official vote, even though it's non-binding, of the local legislature saying we favor this. So they didn't take a vote in the committee. They had a long hearing, passionate views on both sides. The one that surprised me was that the Unite Here people are in favor of expanding the airport, which has to help. And the cause of that. And then so the full board is going to have to vote on it before the legislation session's over, which means they really have one more meeting to do that, right?
Right.
So how's that looking?
Well, I think I'm hoping that we'll get the vote. Our folks are talking to the leadership of the Board of Alders, and they haven't shut us down yet, so we're hopeful.
Okay.
And, this is just important for the growth and development of our city, our region, and our state.
The something that a neighborhood was completely happy about last week was a plan that Beulah Development Corporation, that's connected with the Beulah Heights Church, that did a great job rebuilding that block on Orchard to Henry and Munson. They have a big plan for the old Joe Greats lot,
right,
where Dixwell and Shelton kind of come together there at Munson, and they want to put 80% affordable housing, 70 apartments. Usually we try to get 10 to 20, sometimes 30% affordable housing. They're going 80%.
That's great.
The neighborhood was kind of happy about it. Any thoughts on that plan?
I think it's really great. You know what? They're using a new building material.
The lumber thing.
Yeah, and it's the same lumber that they use at Common Ground. So I asked one of the teachers there on Saturday when I was there, I said, well, how is this new wood working out in your building? And what's cool about it is that when it's humid, the wood absorbs the humidity. When it's really dry in the wintertime, it lets it out. So it really controls humidity. And it sounds like it's going to be a great opportunity for these folks who get to live in those
And there's this
spaces.
idea, I love the idealism in New Haven. There's an idea that it will also spawn a local industry in this lumber construction.
Yes,
Train people how to do it.
Well, it sounds wonderful, based upon what the teacher was telling me. Everybody should want to use that. And if we can build it here, all the better.
Sarah Marie writes into Facebook, thanks for listening, Sarah, and liking the show. We don't have time for much more coming out, but The Great Give is tomorrow. That's Tuesday and Wednesday, and that's that time every year. Talk about another event that so many people participate in. And a lot of cities do a Great Give. Community Foundation runs it. We're going to be doing a radiothon here. We're not doing the night this time. We're just going to do day and afternoon, where people come in and they pitch their nonprofit. So they have a friendly competition.
Yep.
Where all the nonprofits for 36 hours try to get everyone to give them money, and then there are prizes for who gets the most, and there are a lot of matching dollars, and a lot of organizations get that. And it's a way for us all to say we really care about all the people doing good work in New Haven. There's a website at the Community Foundation called The Great Give. And here on the WNHH Independence Radio Station, we have people come in all day and all night where they get 15 to 20 minutes to pitch their group, and they have to do a song or a poem first.
Nice.
And that's a lot of fun. They really get in the spirit. And so any thoughts on The Great Give? Any plans you have?
Well, you know what? Look, I grew up in the Baptist church. And, if you went to church on Sunday, like at least every 15 minutes, they'd be asking you for money for one thing or another. So if you're a Baptist, you know how to give. And I think, what people forget is that these agencies need money that they can use in between the grants. Oftentimes there's space in between what the grant will pay for and other dollars that they have to keep going. So, what you provide will largely be a Band-Aid, but it's a Band-Aid that is sorely needed. Please give.
Tony Harp, thank you so much for your weekly appearance on Mayor Monday. Congratulations on a year as president of the African American Mayors Association. We're proud of you representing us and learning from there and just keeping us in the mix of what's happening nationwide with cities.
Well, thank you very much, Paul, and it's great to see you this Monday. Have a wonderful week.
All right, and thanks for listening. Thanks to Gateway Community College, Bertram Moses PC for providing financial support. We're taking it out with the Afro-Semitic experience. I wish I knew how it feel to be free. We all know what it's like to be free. We just got to remember to book our flight. Book your flight all day and all night long here at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.